And I thought to myself, oh, come on. This is ridiculous. He was actually out and held his left arm in the air like this for 4 hours. And then the hypnotist said, when I snap my fingers, you're going to come out of it. And he snapped his fingers. The arm dropped. The guy looks around and he said, what happened? And then he goes, blah, just vomits everywhere, ran to the bathroom to clean himself up. And the hypnotist said to me, I've been doing this for 50 years. I've read about that in the literature, but I've never seen anybody vomit when they came out of the hypnosis. Never saw anything like it in my life. It was fascinating. Thanks for that excellent question.
Okay, so there are like several different war crimes there.
Admitted.
You can't take another country's oil. It's like quite literally written into the war crimes law, right? You can't steal the natural resources of another country. It's the definition of a war crime. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. Number two, buy from us. We have plenty. The U.S., yeah, that's true. It's more expensive, but sure, they could do that. Build up some delayed courage, go to the Strait and just take it. That's also a war crime. It's sovereign Iranian territory. The only legal way for the United States or any country to move into Iran is if the Iranians invite us, right? If the Iranians attack us first, which they didn't, or with the approval of the United Nations Security Council, which hasn't even met on the issue because we would veto it. So it's a war crime. You can't do it. Plain and simple, you can't do it. Now, Donald Trump, not even just in the same day, the same like part of the day, said, we don't need NATO. They're weak. They don't do anything.
Find something that gives you pleasure, even if you do it alone. Just find something that can divert your attention from, the travails of life. And keep in mind, and listen, man, I know this is a cliche, but I'm going to say it anyway. Things really do get better. They really do. Take it from me. They really do get better. So very best of luck. I'm pulling for you.
We've all heard the story of the
dancing Israelis.
There was a van load of Israeli citizens that were arrested in New York City several days before 9/11. They were taking pictures of the World Trade Center, but they were doing it in this odd
to develop Gaza and make it better than Monte Carlo, which is what he said. Go with God. The Palestinians could use the influx of cash. Sure. Make it better than Monte Carlo. I think that would be a wonderful thing. Very little known, small cemetery in very far upper northwest, not even northwest, it's right on the northwest-northeast line at the very top of North Capitol Street. So another block and you're in Maryland. And it's called the Old Soldiers and Sailors Home National Cemetery. So there's a nursing home there that was set up during the Civil War for people who had lost legs and couldn't care for themselves. And when they died, they were buried in the cemetery next to the nursing home. There are 23 or 27 Congressional Medal of Honor winners there. They weren't very interesting to me because you go on the Medal of Honor website and it's like, killed lots of Indians, killed lots of Indians, killed lots of Indians. Well, that's just not interesting. So I'm wandering around the cemetery and there are about 15,000 burials there, which is quite small for a cemetery. There's one woman. One. So I was like, well, who's this woman? Agnes Bukowski. Maybe she was just married to the guy in charge. Maybe she's nobody. So I started to research her. Oh my God, what a fascinating story. Sorry, Ground Branch guys. You're great at what you do, but the idea was to take people alive.
What about, okay, so Abu Zubaydah, we'll get into this. I don't want to get ahead of it, but he was the number 3 in Al-Qaeda at the time, or we believed he was. Right. So what about JSOC? What about one of the Special Operations Unit? Why have a fucking case officer? And not to say that you're not smart and capable.
You're completely correct. Yes, why not? Because it was chaos in Washington. Chaos. Listen, on 9/11, as I was driving back, I saw the White House Senior Director for Middle Eastern Affairs walking with no shoes to try to get to a subway to get home. That's what kind of chaos there was in Washington. With no shoes. This is number 4 guy in the National Security Council. And he's like, I better get the fuck out of here.
I don't even have time to grab my shoes. So John's going to sit down now with a legal pad and a pen. And I remember actually sitting there like this, thinking, okay, if I'm going to take down a terrorist safe house, how would I do that? And I said, well, I would want it to be dark. I wouldn't want anybody to see me, or at least not to see me gearing up for it. So I wrote 0200 at the top of the page. And I thought, well, I need guns and ammunition, bulletproof vests, maybe some night vision goggles. Yeah, holsters, secure comms, walkie-talkies at least. So I wrote all this crap down. And because, I mean, you have to think bureaucratically too. 9/11 is an open criminal investigation, which, as much as it was a punch in my gut to admit it, meant that the FBI had the lead. And this is the Pakistanis' country, so we need to pretend like they're in charge. So you got to have a team that included an FBI agent and a Pakistani, right? And then you need surveillance and you need security on top of it.
I'm not undercover, but please don't put this in the system.
And the cop is like,
I've got to at least see some ID.
so I pull out my alias driver's license. And the cop comes up, he's got his hand on his gun now, and I very gingerly hand him my license, and he says,
Hang tight.
goes back to his car, comes back up to my car. He's like,
Giddy's giggling. Oh, this has never happened to me.
this license, it doesn't even come back to anything. Like, I can tell it's an official license. It has the, you know, the logo where you move, I forget what you call it, the hologram. It has the hologram, but it doesn't come back to anything. And I said, I still have my hands on the dash. I said, yeah, that's.
Kind of the idea.
And he's like, wow, this is so cool. I probably can't tell anybody about it, right? And I said,
Please don't.
and he says, okay, well, you guys have a good night. And he hands me back my license.
And I took off.
I hope I'm not speaking out of school, but Kofar loved the Pakistani accent.
So he would talk like this all the time, sir. I am loving you too much, Mr. Kofar. You're a good man, sir. They would say, there was a great hue and cry.
And Kofar's like, wait a minute.
Are you saying there was a great hue and cry? And they're like, yes, sir. Not just the hue.
is what you're saying.
It was the hue and the cry.
And they're looking at each other like, what is he talking about? And he's like, I love doing that to them. I love it. It's so much fun.
There's no such thing as a safe cell phone. Zero. I even wrote a book called The CIA Insider's Guide to Disappearing and Living Off the Grid. And really the bottom line of the whole book is zero technology. Literally zero technology. No email, no internet, no cell phone, no regular phone. Caveman times. I mean, you have to go out into the woods of Utah like the Unabomber and live in a cabin.
Develop you. That's actually the fun part. That is us going to lunch and going to dinner, and I spend money on you because I have literally an unlimited budget to do so. And maybe we go on vacation together and our wives are friends, and you mention offhandedly that you like to go fishing, let's say. So I charter a boat for $4,000 and I take you deep sea fishing because you could never afford to do it on your own. And then we become best friends. And because we're best friends, I say to you, hey, would you do me a favor? I'm sorry to ask, but the Russians have this new tank, and I know that you guys have access to the plans, and I would really appreciate it if you could just make me a copy of those plans. I know that sounds kind of funny, but it would help me a lot. So, hey, thanks, I appreciate it. I'll pick them up tonight. And then maybe I start giving you a little bit of money. And then finally, when it comes to the recruitment, I say, I haven't been totally honest with you. I'm actually a CIA officer, undercover. Are you okay with that? You're a great guy, and you're my best friend, and how about if I give you $5,000 a month, and you just answer my questions, right? That's cool, right? And you undoubtedly will say yes, and the rest is history.
Think about what you have to lose.
real estate is skyrocketing in Athens. Why? Because the Chinese and the Israelis are buying all the real estate. Well, the Chinese are doing the same thing in Kyrgyzstan. They don't need to invade the country because they just buy it. God knows they have the money. And it's not just land. They're buying industries, like whole industries.
More articulate, become a better storyteller, and just like speak well in general? How can people get better at that?
That's a great question. I'll answer it by beginning with a story. My brother and I went out one time. We were like in college, I guess. We went out and he said, "No, why?" And I said, "Because I'm under surveillance. I'm 100% sure that I'm under surveillance. And when I see the guy again this afternoon, I'm going to kill him." And he said, "No, it's not us." And I never saw him again. I never saw the surveillance again. We learned later that they were all sitting around one day, and one of them said, "That John Kiriakou from the American embassy, he is such a nice guy." And then another one said, "You know what? Nobody's that nice. He's pretending to be nice so that we'll drop our guard. He's probably working against us," which I wasn't. So they chose the worst possible surveillance guy to just check me out and see what I was doing when I wasn't with them. And I spotted him immediately, and I was going to kill him. And if I hadn't told the general that afternoon that I had spotted the surveillance and that I was going to kill the guy, he'd be in the ground right now.
Wow.
That kind of experience becomes so burned into your brain, even after you return to the United States. Like, Al-Qaeda's not going to surveil me in the United States. The FBI might. They're not going to try to do a hit. But what about a carjacker? You know? Or a nut, or an armed robber, or who knows? So you just, they trained you so hard over the course of so many years. It's just not something that you can forget.
What's the coolest piece of spy tech you ever got to use? There's kind of a dirty little secret about spy tech, and it is that 95% of it.
Well, all my life I've had this irrational fear of things that drink my blood. I hate mosquitoes. I hate ticks, all the stuff that drinks your blood. It freaks me out ever since I was a little kid. I'm perfectly happy to get in a gunfight with somebody, but I
Hate mosquitoes.
take off my clothes.
I'm in my underwear.
I swim 1/4 of a mile out to this friggin' island in the swamp. I'm covered in leeches, and they're all drinking my blood. I'm like, should I pull the leeches off?
Why don't you take the straight? You're already there.
Right.
Just take it if you want to take it. So, either NATO's weak or it's not weak. Either it's cowardly or it's not cowardly. He said something the other day about NATO that was also false. He said that NATO's never done anything for us. They've never helped us. That is patently untrue. The only time in history where Article 5 was invoked and a country asked, a NATO member country asked the rest of NATO to come to assist was on September the 12th, 2001. We invoked it and we asked NATO to help us fight Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, and they agreed. It's the only time. They've never asked us for help. Never. Never in history since the formation of NATO, 1949. So he's just wrong. Yeah.
What do you think is happening?
I think that
and what is he seeing?
I think he's frustrated for two reasons. I think he's frustrated because Netanyahu lied to him. He lied to him. And I'll get back to that in a second. But I think he's frustrated because he believed, mostly because Netanyahu told him so, and we were taking in a lot of Israeli finished intelligence, written intelligence. We can talk about that too. Mm-hmm. He really believed that as soon as we fire the first shot, that government's just coming down. Especially when we decapitate it. We kill the Ayatollah. We kill the entire military leadership. We kill the entire nuclear leadership. And they just keep going like nothing happened. That's not what Netanyahu told him to expect.
And I think you're on record saying the Joint Chiefs told him that this wasn't going to work?
Yes.
He ignored them.
Yes. It's been my experience at the CIA that the Joint Chiefs are the last ones that want to go to war because they know how hard it is.
You know, this was one of the most valuable lessons I learned when I was at the CIA during the
Lower Manhattan. But then on 9/11, there was a larger group of Israeli citizens who were
dancing in the streets.
right because we had been attacked. The reason why they were dancing is because they knew how the United States would react.
So they were celebrating the reaction.
They were celebrating the reaction. We're going to go out and we're going to
Kill 1 million Muslims, which is exactly what happened. The number may be 2 million.
They were arrested and they were held for 100 days. Now, many of them had direct ties to the Israeli government. That has led me to believe the Israelis were not involved with al-Qaeda in the planning, but I believe
The Israelis had infiltrated al-Qaeda.
they knew that the attack was coming. They knew that would be good for Israel. And so they allowed the attack to happen. And every time we would ask the Israelis, do you know anything about this group? They would say, no, we don't know anything. Of course they knew. The Israelis are the best intelligence service in the world.
Are they better than the CIA? I think they are. Yeah. They're certainly deadlier.
You know, in the CIA, we have laws that are not always respected, but we have pretty clear laws on assassinations. Between 1975 and September 11th, 2001, it was illegal for the CIA to assassinate anybody. And it's because
The CIA used to assassinate all kinds of people before 1975, killing world leaders, overthrowing governments. We had to stop that.
But I can't tell you how many friends that I have from both the left and the right who have said, after I say something like, you know, there should be an investigation on human rights abuses, and they'll say, I didn't know you were pro-Hamas.